What does it really mean to own your life, to take control of your vision and claim the seat at the head of your own table? Today's guest is here to challenge you in the way that you think about your own freedom, your financial health, and really give you some practical tools to start building the life that you truly want. Anthony O'Neill is a #1 national best-selling author. He's a personal finance expert, and he is the host of The Table. It's a podcast and YouTube show that empowers millions to live debt-free and build true wealth. With a legacy of helping others break generational gaps and create financial success, Anthony's mission is clear: to help you step into your fullest potential. This conversation I had with him is so good. It's so practical. It's going to inspire you for this new year that you are embarking on and hopefully get you into taking action. He really explores mindset shifts to take some practical strategies. He gave some really good little tidbits too on just how to start creating generational wealth, which I just was eating up. I absolutely loved that conversation that we had. And to take ownership of your finances. If you feel like you really are wanting to level up in your life, stop building somebody else's dream, even if you want to remain in your 9-to-5 for this year and you are, happy there, how to start taking ownership at the very least in your own finances so that you can start to enjoy your life. And we also get a sneak peek at Anthony's upcoming book, Take Your Seat at the Table, where he shares his framework for living an authentic life of abundance, wellness, and freedom. So if you're ready to stop playing small, you want to start creating a life that is truly yours, you are in for a really transformative conversation. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Trust Issues Podcast, the show where we question everything society tells us about how to live, work, eat, and be. I'm Erica Auckland, a mom, entrepreneur, and advocate for living life on your own terms. Here we challenge the status quo, from the food we feed our families to the way that we build wealth and well-being. You'll hear unfiltered conversations with everyone from farmers, financial experts, and everyday people who are doing life differently, all with one goal: to help you live healthier, freer, and more abundant. If you've ever felt like there's more to life than following the crowd, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Anthony O'Neill, welcome to the Trust Issues Podcast.
Oh, Erica, man, thank you so much for having me on this show. I've been looking forward to this one. I haven't been on your podcast before, so I said, oh, this is going to be fun.
This is going to be fun. We're going to have a good conversation today. And I just want to get right into it because I think your story is incredible. I think there's so much that we can learn from you today. So, what does it mean when you say taking a seat at your own table? I'm seeing this on your social. I know you have a book coming out, so we can talk about that in a little. Yeah. But when you say taking a seat at your own table, what does that mean to you? And why is this concept so important in today's culture?
Man, it's such a good question. When I think about life, right? When I think about everything that I've been through, if I'm being honest and transparent on Trust Issues podcast, we're going to talk about trust. For years, I never really took control of my life. So the table is a metaphor for your actual life. And I remember for a long period of time, my jobs would tell me what I should do with my life. My culture would tell me what I should do with my life. Peers, hey, you should dress like this, act like this. I never forget when I really started understanding how to date. My brothers told me how to date. They told me what kind of woman I should go after, how I should like her, what she should look like. And I never really thought for myself, right? And I remember my first job. My mom told me, hey, these are the kind of jobs you should go for. Going to school, hey, you need to go to school because that's what everyone does. And I was like, man. And I realized one day that, man, I'm not really taking control of my own life. I'm not taking a seat at the head of my table. I'm actually at the side of my table. If you picture a table, you always got the head center person sitting at the head of the table. There's like 3 seats on the side, then there's another head on the other side. But picture this, like I was sitting at the side, and at one point in life, my parents were telling me what to do with my life. At one point in life, my job was telling me to do with my life. At one point in life, bankers, because I borrowed so much money for them, they were telling me, yo, you can't go on vacation. You can't do no spring break. You can't go out here and have a summer break and chill out and relax because you owe me money. So I need you to go get a second job so you can pay me back. And so when I say take a seat at the head of your table, what I'm saying is take control of your life. And you start making decisions for yourself and then start inviting people and things to your life, to your table that align with where you're going. And I'll end it like this. I was being interviewed by a very successful magazine, and it said, man, you spent all these years helping other organizations, other churches, and other companies, build these big businesses and build their legacies. And they said, ask me this one question, Erica, and I couldn't answer it. They said, but what are you doing for your legacy?
Mm.
You're coming in at, if you're working at 8, you're coming in at 7 o'clock. If your job's done at 5, you're leaving at 6 o'clock because you want to be the best supervisor and you want to make all this money. But what are you doing for your life? And I paused because it's like, what am I doing with my life? And I remember going home and I couldn't sleep for 3 days because the question I kept asking myself is, how am I using the gifts and the tools that I have, that I've been given as a Christian from my God, to benefit my family?
Mm.
I've been using it to benefit someone else's family, but what am I doing to benefit my family? And there's nothing wrong with having a job because we all need jobs, right? But it's like, if I can use my gifts and my talents and my resources for somebody else, how come I'm not doing that for myself? And I realized that, man, all I have is a 401k that I'm going to leave down to my kids. And I said, no, 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 no. That's when things started to shift for me. So when I came home, I started building something on the side for myself that I can own, that I can leave to my family while I still had the job. Then I realized that God started calling me more to entrepreneurship because of how he wired me. But not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur. And so for me, it's really about stepping back and understanding, what are your gifts, what are your talents, what are your resources, what are you passionate about, and what is your purpose, and what is your assignment. And then from there, you direct your life. And then you invite jobs, you invite friends, you invite a therapist, you invite people to your table that's going to help you accomplish your God-given assignment.
It's such a beautiful visual. And I think what you said was so powerful, that not everyone may be meant to be an entrepreneur.
No.
But I think that there are those who are in their 9 to 5. And this is a beautiful segue into my question of, for someone who's working a 9 to 5 right now, but they are feeling stuck, they're feeling unfulfilled, they're feeling like they're not really using their God-given purpose. What are some steps that you would encourage them to take towards creating their own vision and building a life that they own, that they are seated at the head of that table?
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. So I'm a sports guy. So I don't know, Erica, if you're a
My
sports.
husband's a huge sports guy, so
Great.
I'll try to pick up what I can.
Great. Let's do it then. So let's talk about Michael Jordan. Michael
Yes.
Jordan in these days and times, let's say he was an entrepreneur, right? He was an entrepreneur. Scottie Pippen.
I know these names. I'm
Okay, there
following.
you go. So then you're good, right? You're good. So listen, you have Michael Jordan,
Yeah.
right, who was an entrepreneur, but he couldn't build a 7-figure business by himself. But he built an amazing $500,000 business. This man was out here crossing people over, dropping 50 points, but couldn't get to the championship game.
Mm.
And the reason why he couldn't get to the championship game is because he didn't have a 9 to 5 employee on this team. He didn't have a second man. So when Scottie Pippen came in and said, you know what, I'm that second man. I'm not trying to be Michael Jordan. I'm going to play my role and I'm going to play my position to help Michael Jordan be Michael Jordan, but so that we all can win. So when Scottie Pippen came in, they made it to the playoffs. When they got Dennis Rodman and Steve Kerr and all those type of people, man, they won championships, and now they will go down in history as one of the best NBA teams ever to play the game. But the key thing here is, not everyone was called to be Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
We
Good.
need the Scottie Pippens. We need the 9 to 5 workers. I need strong contractors who can come in here and create graphics and kill it, because without graphics, I can't reach people. I need good editors. You need good editors. You just said, let me call my producer. Well, your producer is not running your company, but they may be running their own company on the side. So
Mm-hmm.
not everybody is called to be an entrepreneur, because if everyone was an entrepreneur, we all wouldn't have jobs. Like, we wouldn't be making no income because we wouldn't have somebody to do the actual work. And so, but here's what I would definitely say. You could be a 9 to 5 employee and still have an entrepreneur mindset. This simply means like, okay, cool. I love being a school teacher. Great. How can you come home and maybe tutor kids on the side as
Mm,
your own business that the government doesn't have to get a portion of that income? That all you got to do is pay the taxes. But now, because you have a small business on the side, now you have tax write offs, you have privileges to what the wealthy and the rich people have. And so you can be a 9 to 5 employee and still have an entrepreneurial mindset, but really do enjoy what you're doing on your job, which I think there's totally nothing wrong with that. And so there's nothing wrong with being a 9 to 5. Like, hey, I don't know. Like, am I wrong? No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I would definitely say this: if God has called you to more, you need to figure out how to get to that more.
mm,
And watch this though. Let's flip it. If God called you to be a nine to five employee, but you're an entrepreneur, you need to get back to the 9 to 5 employee, because nothing extraordinary happens when you're outside of the design purpose of your life.
mm.
And I think sometimes we'll chase money rather than chasing purpose. And what I've learned is when I can just focus on my purpose and my assignment, profit comes when I'm in my purpose and my assignment.
That is so good. And I think a segue into the conversation around money, let's talk about money
Yeah,
because you're right. I think that, and especially just, society is constantly telling people this is how you should live, this is how you should work, this is a huge conversation of trust issues. We have trust issues with how society tells us to live, work, and be.
yeah.
And so let's talk about money specifically, and what are some common misconceptions that you see around building wealth
Mhm.
and how people can start to take control of their finances, whether they're an entrepreneur or they work in a 9 to 5.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna give you one that's really good that people don't really talk about a lot. It's gonna be a real good one. That be like, wait, what's it got to do with money? We would rather do retail therapy than actual therapy, and a lot of people would rather go out
I
there.
mean, can we just hold on? That's a truth bomb. I mean, and at the time that we're recording this, it's holiday season, people are shopping, I mean, there's a lot of overspending happening,
There is.
unintentional or
Yep.
intentional, I mean, not here to judge, but
Yep.
it's just the time of year. And I think
No.
that's really powerful.
Listen, we have to be honest. We would rather do retail therapy than actual therapy.
Mm,
And one of the misconceptions is wealthy people spend a lot of money. No, no, no. Wealthy people, if you really study true wealthy people, they have a library of information. What does that mean? That they treat their mind like it's a business. And this is their number one asset. And so they will go to therapy and make sure that this business is tuned up. It has the right oil change. It is taken care of. Because if my mind is not right, I cannot build wealth. I can't build a business. I can't invest properly. I can't do the things that I've been called to do if this is not right. But what I've seen from non-wealthy people is, well, if as long as I look good, I feel good. I really don't care about how I look. I feel like if I feel smart, oh, I feel good. If I feel like I know what to do with my money, I feel good. I can have on Payless shoes and a big old baggy sweater, but if this mind is right, I know how to invest. I know how to grow my money. I know how to get out there and make a job. I mean, make more money happen. How is it that you got wealthy people, they can file bankruptcy 10 times and go broke and still come back and make $1 million?
mm,
It's because they spent time up here growing their mind. And
mhm.
so when it comes to money, what I'm really passionate about in this season of my life, and this is another reason why I wrote the book, Take a Seat at the Table, is that I want to help you lay down a foundation first that wealthy people have to have. And if you don't have your mind in the right place, your spirit in the right place, whatever you learn on my podcast, Erica's podcast, all that's going to come in one ear and out the other ear because you haven't fed your spirit and your soul right. You got the wrong people at your table. Right? Watch this. You got the wrong people at your table. You just made an extra $10,000 on the commission check. You got the wrong people at the table. Oh, well, we need to go turn up. We need to go. Girl, we about to go have a hot girl summer. A hot girl summer and come back and it'll be a cold winter. It's going to be a real cold winter because now I'm broke. I ain't got no money. I don't know what to do. But
Mm,
see, if you had the right people at your table, They would say, "Hey man, you need to go invest at least about 5,000. You got a kid? Like, yo, go put some of that money to a 529. Yo, but listen, let's enjoy 2,500. Let's go turn up on 2,500. Cool, great, right? But you know what? Make sure you put 10% into God if you're a Christian. Like you got to make sure
Yeah, that's good.
that this is good and the people surrounding you are good and they know your vision. And then here's another one. Here's another one, Erica. And I'm a black preacher, so you got to cut me off whenever you want me to.
No, keep going. I'm living for it.
Lack of vision.
Mm.
People
Yep.
perish because of the lack of knowledge and lack of vision. Where there is no vision, that's where people perish.
Hmm.
And so if you're wondering, if you're coming into the year 2025 and you're saying, man, I don't know what I did with my money last year. Let me tell you what you didn't do.
Wow.
You didn't have vision. And your money was just going all over the place because you never told your money what it needs to do. You just spent it and you allowed to go over here. No, man. I know exactly what my money is going to do. I
Mm.
already know how much money I'm spending this quarter. I've already identified the goals that I have for the year 2025 that require financial resources. And so I'm not just guessing. I'm not just going with the you only live once experience. No, I am sitting down and I'm writing the vision and I'm making a vision plain for my life and for my money. And if I say, hey, I want to get out of debt in 2025, where my budget, aka the vision for my money, is going to show that I'm saving and putting extra funds towards my debt. If I want to buy a house this year, well, then in my budget and for the vision for my money, I'm going to show that I'm saving for the down payment of my house. Maybe you want to go out and treat your family to a beautiful vacation this summer. Cool, great. Your budget and your vision is going to show that. But you got to write it down and you got to stick to the purpose and assignment of your life. And that's so important that a lot of people are not really understanding.
No, 100%. I think it's so much easier to avoid all of this. I mean, this is hard work. This is self discipline. This is, really looking at it for what it is to say, okay, if I want to live different, I have to move different. And I think one thing I'd love to ask of you is what are some, because you talk a lot in your book about financial discipline. So, what are some of the disciplines that our listeners need to take on, adopt, maybe even a sneak peek of what you talk about in your book when it comes to our money? Because I think, again, it's the difference of, like you're saying, being someone who may appear to have money
Hmm.
or being someone who actually has money. I think that the difference there is it is the self discipline.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, Erica. Majority of single listeners, married listeners, a little bit of
Married
both?
listeners, a lot of moms, a lot of parents, people who are trying to raise their families better and do different for
Yeah.
their kids than how they grew up.
I love it. I'm glad I asked that question. So I'll give you one for parents, and I'll come back to one that I've been practicing here recently. I have a lot of parents who listen to my show too, right? And so they're like, "Hey, how do I really position my kids to win?" And something that I really, 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 when it comes to financial discipline, is learning how to put your, this is going to sound so awkward, but follow me. How to put your financial requirements before your kids' financial desires.
Hmm.
Listen to what I just said. Financial requirements before their financial desires. Financial requirements. You need to retire. You know you're going to get older and you know you're going to retire one day. Oftentimes we see a lot of parents who'll get to this age to where they didn't really save and invest properly for themselves, but they put all of their resources in getting their kids to a college that they really didn't want to go to, or helping them get that degree that they're not even using today, helping them do things that they really need to do at the cost of you not investing into your future. So then now when you get to the age that you have to retire and you can't do much, now you got to come back to your kids and now you got to be a financial and a present burden to your kids when they're trying to raise their own families. And so what I tell mothers and families is if you're going to be disciplined during this season of your life, you're in good health, you got a good job, you're making good income, I need you to really focus on really telling your kids maybe no for a little while so that way you can say yes to them down the road. So that way, when you do get to that age and you do need some help, you can be a financial blessing to your kids and to your family, not a financial burden. And I lived that experience with my grandmother. because my grandma, man, she spent all her money. Then when she got older and she had to move in with us, it was an extra expense to my mom and my dad, and we
Mm.
felt that because we couldn't get a bigger house, so all my siblings had to sleep in one car. We couldn't go out to eat as much as we did because now we got a whole extra mouth we got to feed. So we was doing a whole lot more cooking at the house, which was probably a good thing. You probably did save a little bit of money, but it's like we it took away the experience. So I would tell parents, if you're going to be disciplined during this season, man, start investing wisely into your future. Start investing into that 401k, into that IRA, into some good mutual funds, ETFs. Start positioning yourself to be a blessing rather than a burden. And then two, one thing I've really been practicing, sis, is, man, for the little bit of single people out there who are listening to this amazing show, date on a budget. I'm always, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm still single, because I date on a budget. A lot of people think, well, you're debt free and you've been able to build this good net worth. You're absolutely right, but you're not going to get it. My wife will get it, but you're not. I just met you. So I don't know you enough to be dropping this kind of money, but I stick to my budget. And so I think that's discipline, because I know every woman that I date is not going to be my wife. So I
Mm.
have to be disciplined enough to move in that way rather than trying to impress them. So when it comes to finances, man, think about your future as a married, as a mother, as a father, but then too as a single person out there, man, think about your future and focus on saving and making sure that you're ready for what God is going to bless you with down the road.
That's so good. And as a mom myself, I can say kids don't need as much as we think they need.
Do your kids need Jordans?
No. They don't even know. My son doesn't even know what that is. And even, again, at this time of recording, it's Christmas time. And I'm like, he's almost 3. He's 3 next month. He doesn't know. He's not going to remember all the things. He'll remember the memories. He'll remember the time with family. But I think that's just such a powerful perspective of, you know, maybe you don't need as much as you think you do. And the discipline now, what that can do later for your kids, they're going to be saying thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, I have some friends out there in the past who were buying their kids Jordans, and I'm like, I think that is the dumbest investment you can make
You're going to
into,
wear them for like 6 months, if that.
if that. So you spent $200 on them, but then you don't have $200 in the 529 for them.
Wow.
The
Perspective.
$200 on the Jordans that you're gonna spend, okay, yeah, they look cute. They're gonna look dope for some pictures on Instagram,
Who cares?
but $200 in a 529, let that sit there for 18 years. If you just put, that's gonna be $10,000 by the time they get older. But if you put more into it, they'll grow for sure. But I'm like, we gotta be disciplined, and I get it. I'm not saying parents that our kids should just look like they have nothing nice. No, 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 no. But why in the world are you buying them expensive shoes for them to go outside, mess it up, to go on school, to jump in the sand, to jump in the mud? They don't care nothing about what's on their feet.
They do not.
They don't even know what's on their feet.
I can attest to that. And I think, like that's such a powerful thing to say is like buying things to look cool on Instagram. How many people are going into debt, have debt? I think debt is a big conversation we need to tackle because it's very overwhelming. Yet, many people just live in this perpetuating cycle of just living in debt, buying more things, adding to the debt. What advice do you have for someone who may be listening right now currently feeling like they are drowning in debt and they want to get out? They need to see a way out. What would you say to them?
I want them to understand the importance of why they need to get out. And I use this analogy all the time because it's like, man, it's real. And I know your mothers can relate to this. So Monday through Friday, just recently, I had to take my adopted little nephew to school, and he said, "Hey, he needs to be there by 8 o'clock." I said, "Bet." So I left the house at 7:45. That was a wrong thing for me to do.
I'm like, how far is this school?
Yeah, so the
On the same
school
street?
is right up the street, about 5 minutes away. But when I
Bet.
got there, I was in a long line.
Right.
Then they told me, hey, he needs to be picked up by 3 o'clock. So I said, bet. I'll leave my house at 2:45. I stayed in that line until about 3:50.
Oh my gosh.
It was that long to get to the front of the school to get my little nephew. So when I think about this, I'm like, wait a minute. Monday through Friday, parents have to do this. You got to get up, get your kids, feed them, get them ready for school, drop them off at school, or either drop them off at the bus station, and then leave them, go to work a job that a lot of people really don't really care for, dealing with people they really don't care for, working for a boss or a place that doesn't really care for them. They're just another number getting the job done. Then get off of that, pick up the kids, come home, and get them situated, feed them, get them decompressed from school, make sure homework is good, have that conversation, and then don't be a wife or a husband. Now you got to tend to the husband got to tend to the wife, you got to eat, then you got to do all that every single day. Watch this, every single day, Monday through Friday, to get your paycheck to give the majority of the banks and lenders the fruit of your hard labor for your family to get the leftovers. So Bank of America, Citibank, your mortgage company, your landlords, they get the fruit. They get the bulk of your money. Then on Monday, you're looking at it, you get 10 to 15% of the leftover of your money, and you did all the work Monday through Friday. You're stressed out. And if you really step back and you really look at that, you're like, what? That is what debt is doing. They're telling you go get a job. They're telling you, as a matter of fact, this is your life, but I'm going to run your life. I'm going to take a seat at the head of your own table, aka your life. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry, you can't go to your son's soccer game because you owe me $50,000 on this car that you bought. And then you also owe them another $25,000. And you also know the government student loans. So you know what? I need my money on time. So when you get off your 9 to 5 job, I need you to get another job so you can pay me back on time. And so, no, you ain't got time to be no mama. Are you soccer mama? Nah. You need to get another job after work, get another job on the weekends. Your son and children they'll be all right. They'll be all right because if you don't pay me, then I got to come after you. Now your credit's going to suck. Now I got to send bill collectors after you and call your job. That's going to be embarrassing. I got to call your house. I got to call your neighbors. I got to send you mail. So it's like for me, when you really realize that when you're drowning in debt, you're not sitting at the head of your own table. You're not sitting at the head of your own life. They are. Man, you got to get rid of that. You have to get rid of the debt. And I tell everyone the best place and how to start is simple. Number one, you got to step back and be honest with yourself. I call this acronym, I called it EARN. For those of y'all listening down, you may want to write this because it's a great acronym that will help you get out of debt. Number one, you got to evaluate where you currently are financially. Hey, I am in $60,000 worth of debt. I make $42,000 a year, and I have $5,000 in investments. Or it could be I got $125,000 in debt. I make $85,000 a year and I have zero investments. No, you need to evaluate your current financial success in the season that you're in. Then for the EARN acronym is that you're going to arrange the vision. So now you're going to sit back and say, okay, I'm in this amount of debt. This is where I'm at financially. But by the end of 2025, I want to be here. I want to pay off $5,000 in debt, $10,000 in debt. I want to save for a down payment at home. I want to start investing into my kids' college fund. I want to listen to the your Trust Issue podcast. I almost forgot the issue part. I want to listen more to that. I want to consume more knowledge. You got to write down the vision for this year, 2025. Once you write down that vision, arrange the vision. R is going to be render the strategy. So now we got to step back and say, okay, you know what? If I want to get out of debt, what is the strategy to get out of debt? A good strategy is I use a debt snowball where you line up all your debt from smallest to largest. You make some extra income and you put all your extra income on the smallest one first and you attack that one while making the minimum payments on the others. Then when you get done with that one, you roll it over to the next, roll it over to the next. Next thing you know, you're debt free. Or let's say, for example, I want to be a better mother. I want to learn how to better serve my kids and better raise them up. Cool, great. What podcasts are you listening to on a daily basis? What books are you consuming? It's all about getting the proven strategy that has worked for others and taking that and implementing it. But here's the thing where a lot of people fail at. Eric, and I'm done on this question because I can speak. I love speaking if you haven't learned yet. They will arrange the vision and they'll get a good strategy, but then they'll sit on it. They won't act.
That's good.
They won't do anything. How many times have you seen people say, "Man, I want to get in shape." So they'll go see a physical therapist. They'll go see a trainer, and they're like, all right, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this. Then they just sit there and like, okay, cool. I want to eat better. Okay, they get all this nutrition, they know how to eat better, but they don't do anything. They just sit on it. So everything that they've done has turned into a dream. And so the N stands for, once you get the strategy, once you have a clear vision and you know where you are, now you have to act. Now act. And if you're drowning in debt and you work that EARN acronym into your life for the year 2025, I promise you, you're going to go into 2026 better, healthier, and ahead of where you were.
So good. And I think so many people are not acting because there's doubts, there's fears, there's what ifs. I think a lot too, it's just the conversation around money brings up so much inadequacy because maybe you grew up and you weren't taught about money, or it was something that was perceived negatively, or whatever, fill in the blank. So for those who are listening who are in serious analysis paralysis, or they're feeling fear, they're feeling self-doubt, they're like, I just don't know if I can step into this new version of myself, because ultimately what you're saying is you have to become a different person with different habits, with different disciplines in order to have a different reality. And I love the last part of your acronym because it's acting now. And I'll just share this as just an anecdotal piece of information, if you will, especially for the mothers listening. I just had my second baby. He's 4 months old at
Congrats.
the time. Thank you, Anthony. At the time of this recording, he's 4 months old. And, after my second, I just felt like I got to get back into working out. I got to get back into getting in shape. And for me, it was like, I just texted my trainer and I'm like, be at my house at this time. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm going to have a good night's sleep the night before. I have no idea what is about to happen, but I know that I have to act now in order for me to develop this new habit. But there were all these little fears in little self-doubt moments in my mind of like, can I handle this? What if the baby's crying in my workout? So I would love for you to share your perspective of fear, doubt. What do you do? If someone is experiencing that, how do they step into their fullest potential? How do they overcome whatever narrative they're believing so they can start to take ownership and sit at the head of their table?
Yeah, I think fear for me is just a false expectation of what may appear, it's just a false expectation. But here's what I
Right.
definitely will say is, to this day, every time I get on stage, I am a little fearful. And I'm a little fearful of the aspect of, I don't want to say the wrong thing and I want to say the right thing that will help people. I think a little bit of fear of not fearing who you are and what you're capable of doing. But again, as a Christian, I have this little bit of fear that I want them to see less of me and more of him. That as a Christian, I want to make sure
So good.
that I'm not like relying on me, that I'm relying on him to impact the person that needs this message. So I think when we can turn fear into energy, and then put the fear that is draining us, that is slowing us down, put that into his hand, then I would say that is a healthy amount of fear, right? Because I pray like it all depends on God, and I work like it all depends on me. And so, in
So
other
good.
words, if I can't fix it, if it's out of my control, I just take it out of my thoughts. Like, here you go, God, I can't control this. I ain't about to be stressed. This ain't for me. But, bruh, give me the wisdom and knowledge of what I need to do to talk good on this stage. Or give me the wisdom and knowledge of what I need to do to be a great mother, to get out of debt. I mean, whatever I got to do to make more money. And I'm going to work that plan. And so I would turn that fear into gasoline on your passion, on your journey. Because I'm fearful of being homeless again. I'm fearful of failing. I don't want to suck. That's why I'm back in school. Because I'm like, I'm fearful I could fall behind. If I don't get the right education, if I'm not continuing to grow, I'm fearful I could fall behind. Now, that fear is not making me like, oh my God, oh my God. No, that
Right.
fear is like, boy, you better step up the game. You better get in school. You better get this education. You better read some more books. That's why I changed my office around me. I'm in my office right now, and you see, I put bookshelves in my
I love
office
it.
because I want to read more. I want to grow more. And I was fearful of, if I don't grow, then my family's going to bury me, and I didn't reach my full potential. That is a fear. But I'm using that fear as fuel to get to where God wants me to go. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say there's nothing wrong with a little bit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure it's not the fear that's hindering you from accomplishing your assignment.
Oh, that's healthy fear. And I think sometimes we can look back generationally of where we came from, what we grew up in, and want to change generations to come. And I feel that burden, being a mother, having two kids. I constantly ask God, I'm like, give me the wisdom to be the right mom that I need to be to raise these boys, to, fill in the blank. And so I'd love to talk about generational wealth, and breaking wealth gaps.
Yeah.
What steps can families, I know we've already talked about this a little bit, but what are some steps families can take to set up for financial legacy
Mhm.
and security for their next generation, for their kids? Any specifics that you can give us?
Absolutely. I think there's some practical things you can definitely do for sure. Number one is one of the things that I've been doing is buying land from a practical
So good.
perspective,
I love
right?
this.
It's when God left this earth, we can't make any more land. Can't. There's nothing else we can do to make more land. We can build buildings, and some of us, like New York, is landlocked. So the land is taken care of. So what are they doing? They're building high,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you come out to the country, there's a whole bunch of land, and eventually life is going to migrate out there. I remember when I was living in Nashville, Tennessee, there's this city called
Oh, yeah.
Columbia, Tennessee. And they said about 10, 15 years before that, oh, it was just a rural area. Like nobody was really living out there. But then when I moved out there, people were starting to go out that way because the cost of living was low. So I'll never forget. I said, well, all right, cool. Let me go out there and get me some land. I got me some land. I built me a house on there. I think I built the house for like 260. Or right at COVID time, I sold the house for $500,000.
Ooh, let's go.
Now, when I look at it, that same house is going for like $720,000 now.
So good.
And it's because it's like, man, wait a minute, right? We got to get it. So it's like for me, when it comes to passing down generational wealth, I'm buying land and I'm solely putting it inside of my trust that I will never benefit from it. Because if I say, hey, this land will be for my children after the age of 21, this land will be for my grandchildren. Now, wait a minute. That's in like in at least another 40 years, 40, 50 years minimum. So if I buy it today for $10,000, $15,000 and 40 years later, oh, it's going to be worth
Right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, depending on what's happening with the economy around that time. So that's another way to really think about it. And let me give your listeners a way to where they can really figure some things out. They could buy land at an auction. And so if someone can't pay their taxes on the land, depending on the county that you're in, you can go in there and follow some steps where you can get that land on pennies on the dollar because that person did not and could not afford to pay their taxes. So I know every county, every state is a little different. So I won't go to the nuances of like my particular county here because I don't want to misrepresent myself. But that's the way. Number two is knowledge. We have to start having money conversations with our kids now, even if they're just sitting at the table. One of my good friends, Rachel Cruz, she says that more is caught than taught.
Mm-hmm.
And so the emphasis is on caught, meaning if they just see me do it, they may not understand what I'm doing. But I don't know about you, E. When I was growing up, there was a lot of images that I had in my head that I started asking my parents, like, hey, at that table, Mom, you was crying over those papers. What was those papers? She's like, son, those were bills. Now, I saw that when I was 2 years old. I'm asking her that at 18, 20 years old.
That's crazy.
So images are caught and stored inside of our brain, and we don't even know this. One of my friends is an elementary school teacher. She owns her own charter school, and she takes all of her kindergartners there in the the city of Nashville, Tennessee. She takes them to TSU. She takes them to the college. She gives them a college tour. Kindergartner.
Wow.
And I was like, well, sis, why you do that? They don't know what they don't know. She said they won't know, but they will remember what they saw.
Mm.
And what they'll start doing is asking mom and dad, what's that big school? What's that big school? That's college. How do I go to the big school? You got to get good grades. Mom and dad, I'm getting good grades. Can I go to the big school? Now, when they get older and mature, they understand big school turns into college. College is education to help me get my job. And I saw the picture when I was 5. When I was 6 years old, now that I'm 18, that's a part of my mission and my vision because that's what I saw. So if they see healthy conversations sitting at the table with mama and daddy, if they see them budgeting, sitting at the table, writing on a piece of paper, saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. If they start seeing it and hearing it over a period of time, we're passing that down. And here's the last thing. Watch this. It's going to change it. It's going to flip it. It's going to help everybody. We're talking about how do we change generational curses. At the age of 40 today, I have no kids, don't even not even dating anyone seriously yet, right? I already have a 529 for my kids. I've had it for about 2 years. The 529 is going to my trust, where if something was to happen to me now, well, the trust would disperse that to my nieces and to my nephews.
Mm,
But the moment that I have a kid, the trust will automatically reroute it to my son or daughter. Well, can you imagine when my kids turn 18, a 529 is a college fund program to where if they go to school, it will help pay for their school. Can you imagine if my kids go to school? Let's just say they get a scholarship, right? And then I come to them and say, you know what? Didn't tell you this, but man, here's another check for $150,000 to help you get through school. Well, let's just say, for an example, because they were good kids and they got a scholarship to school, we got a full scholarship. Now I take that $150,000 and we convert that into an IRA. Or let's just say our kids didn't get a scholarship. Now they're going to college debt free. But I tell them this, hey, before I even knew you were coming,
that's crazy.
I was thinking about you. I was only putting 25, $50 a month in there. What do you think my child is going to do? They're going to do the same thing.
Hmm.
They're going to open up a 529 for their kids because they want a kid. And then now when their kids gets here, instead of them getting 125,000, they're going to get $250,000 because they started way early. Now we're changing generation curses to generation blessings because I'm teaching my kids earlier on. And so those are some of the things that you can practically do to do it. And I got so many different resources on my website at anthonyneal.com where you can go and really learn more from the financial principles. But just really bringing that back to the hone of it is that's now taking a seat at the head of your table in your life. Because now your kids are at your table, your family is at your table. Now you're saying, no, I'm going to look out for you. I'm going to give you things that my family could not do for me. I'm going to think about you when I didn't really have to even think about you. I ain't got no kids. I ain't had to think about kids ain't here yet. But one thing I have learned, and I know I've been preaching a lot, and I'll shut up, is that where your heart is, so is your treasure.
Mm,
So if I'm saying I want kids, my treasure needs to be there. If I'm saying I want to be a husband one day, am I saving for a ring? Am I saving for a wedding? Or am I just spending all my money on girlfriends, trying to be a good boyfriend, but not really preparing for what I want? And so that's what I would recommend.
Anthony, that just gave me chills. And you're someone who has spoken to audiences of over 40,000 people. You've shared these messages with millions, on your podcast, on your YouTube channel. What do you see as your greatest responsibility in this movement for ownership and freedom?
I think my greatest responsibility is just really being an example, and showing people that, hey, we can have freedom. We
Mm-hmm.
can have ownership. We can have the things that we desire. One of the things that I used to be a little nervous about is where I like to splurge on my money. And everyone knows I come from the guru himself, Dave Ramsey. And everyone knows, like, well, Dave, they always say, Dave says, drive the Dave Ramsey car. And I was like, Dave Ramsey car? What is that? And so I was like, man, I'm not driving a Dave Ramsey car. Like, what y'all are calling Dave Ramsey car, I'm just not going to do that. And I used to be fearful to show people that, I drive a really expensive car. Until one day, spiritually, God said, you splurge on your money here. They may splurge on their money on something else.
Mm.
As long as you're splurging with good stewardship principles, I want you to enjoy the life that I've given you. Okay, you like cars. They may like taking $50,000 family vacations. They may love, a $2 million home. Whatever it is, if you ain't got no debt, if you got investments good, and if you're a good steward of the finances that I've given you, I want you to enjoy the things. So for my assignment is, I want to show people that, yo, listen, as long as we do money God's way, man, we can do whatever we want to do. I get in my car and I don't feel no shame in the game.
What car do you drive? We have to know.
I drive a Bentley.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like my house is modest. I don't live
Yeah.
in no seven figure. I mean, it's worth seven figures now because of what we've done, what I've done with it. But I live in a family home, a traditional 5 bedroom family home in Maryland, right? And I built it up myself. But I didn't go build no custom house with
Hmm.
a elevator in it and got 10 rooms. No, it's too big for me. And I was like, yeah, let me get this traditional home, build it up, take good care of it, be a good steward of it. So when my wife does come, my family does come, then I can get into something but bigger. But to be honest with you, Erica, I hope we can start right here. Bedrooms, a lot of bedrooms.
That's a good house.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a
That's
minute, we can stay right here and save a whole lot of money.
That's amazing. No, you drive that car. I'm here for that. And I love that perspective because we all have different things we value. You're talking about your car, and I'm thinking, what do I spend my money on? Like, what do I? And for me, it's like organic food. You know, my husband and I are, we love to cook. So we spend a
Yeah,
lot of money on high quality. We go to a butcher down the street, we'll
come
get
on.
some really good ribeyes. That's our, splurge.
Yes, and there's
So,
nothing wrong with that. Some
yeah,
people may say, you know what, I like purses. I like shoes. I'm gonna buy some red bottoms. I am
right.
I'm so happy for you. Like I want you to enjoy what you're doing, but what I don't want you to do is go to a butcher, go buy a Bentley, go buy Christian Louis Vuittons,
Right.
but you got $200,000 in credit card debt. You know what I'm saying? Like no, that's not good stewardship. That's not wise, right? But enjoy the life that God has given you, man. Be
That's good.
generous, take care of your family, and I just really want to be an example of that. Like, yo, I'm living the life that I want to live, and y'all, I'm not drowning in debt.
And that's refreshing because, like you said, it is freedom.
Yes.
It's freedom. And I think that's what people want. That is, I know for a fact, that's what my listeners want. Last question for you,
Yeah.
because I think a practical point to walk away with would just be so invaluable from you. You have so much wisdom. But for those listening who want to take one step of action today, that may be small, but still powerful to start taking ownership over their lives, their finances, what's one thing they can do?
One thing from a practical perspective, very practical. If you want to take ownership of your life and take a seat at the head of your table, I'm gonna give you two things. Number one, get the new book. Click her link, and we're gonna give you a whole bunch of resources to help you really write it. But then number two is I want you to write down your vision. I want you to go get your husband if you're listening to this. Go get your boyfriend if you have a boyfriend. And I want you to write down what is the direct vision for 2025. What are we doing? Where are we going? And why are we doing this? And the key word there is why. And this is my analogy, not analogy, but this is my thought when it comes to why. If your why doesn't make you cry, then the price of commitment to accomplish your why is going to make you cry. So if you're gonna hit a hard spot in 2025, it's not a matter of if. It's just when you hit the hard spot in 2025. Whether that's emotional, where it could be spiritual, it could be physical, it could be health, something. If you don't have a deep enough why that can get you over that hurdle, you're not going to succeed in 2025. So your why should not be I want to get out of debt. No, the why should be, well, why do you want to get out of debt? Well, I want to get out of debt so this way I can send my kids to private school, so I can give my kids a deeper experience of things that I didn't have. Or I want to get out of debt so that way I can propose to my wife, or I can do things with my family that I couldn't do when I was XYZ, right? And so practical, write the vision, write the why, and I promise you, you'll have a better
Mm.
2025.
Anthony, we're going to make sure we include all the links for your book, Take Your
Thank
Seat
you.
at the Table, in the show notes. If you're listening, you're probably ready to take these next steps. You're probably, I mean, I'm the type of person who, when I hear things like this, like I am so motivated right now. I'm so motivated to sit down with my husband, talk about our new year. What do we want to make happen in 2025? I hope you, as a listener, are also feeling the same way. We'll make sure we link Anthony's new book. When can they get the new book, and where can everyone connect with you online?
I don't know when this particular show is coming out, but the book is going to be available January 14th,
Perfect.
2025. And man, you can go there, go to anthonyneal.com/book, or you can go to any major retail stores from Walmart, Target, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Christian bookstores, you name it. It's all over the place.
I love it. And I'm just encouraging you, if you're listening right now and you get Anthony's book, share what changes in your life. because I think that there's an accountability factor of don't just get the book and let it collect dust. How many times do we do that? Especially at the beginning of a year, you're all amped up, you're excited, you set your goals, but it's like Anthony's acronym. It's that last step. It's act now, right? You have to take that step. So make yourself accountable. Come to Instagram, share with Anthony, send me a message. We'd love to hear what you are doing to actually make these changes. Anthony, thank you so much for being on the Trust Issues podcast. It's been
No,
amazing.
thank you so much for having me. Hope we can do this again soon.
I would love that. So there you have it. If you loved this conversation, make sure to give Anthony on Instagram a follow. It's at Anthony O'Neill. We'll make sure that we link that below. Be sure to get his brand new book, Take Your Seat at the Table. We're going to also link that in the show notes. You can get the book online, and you can also get it wherever books are sold. And if you loved this episode, make sure that you subscribe and give us a 5-star review on Trust Issues. It really, really helps us get our message out there. I think this conversation is so important. So many more people need this conversation. And as the new year is starting, share this message with someone in your life that you know, maybe playing small, needs to evaluate where they want to go with their life and just wants to take full ownership. We'll see you next time.